This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
من شوارع بغداد إلى طاولات الساسة، التدهور الأمني في العراق محور نقاش.
The deterioration of security on Iraq's streets is a serious topic of discussion inside of Iraq's parliament, which held a special session today with the presence of presidential representation, members of the Security and Defense Committee, and the heads of political parties. This meeting took place after the government said that the negligence at checkpoints was one of the things that led to the bombing of Baghdad government buildings last Wednesday, which killed 100 people and injured hundreds more. Iraqi security authorities responded by taking strict measures, including the arrest of 11 senior security officials in Iraq. They were questioned about security failures that made it possible for the two booby-trapped trucks to enter the fortified green zone.
وبغداد على نفس وتيرة اليومين الماضيين ما تزال تعيش كابوس التفجيرات.
The pattern of bombing over the last 2 days continued in Baghdad. 2 people were killed and 22 others were injured when an explosive device that was attached to a civilian blew up in Al Rashid Market, which is one of the largest produce markets in Baghdad.
التجارية الرئيسية لبيع الخضر والفواكه في العاصمة العراقية بغداد.
Just as Iraqis finished the funeral procession for the 95 people who were killed in Baghdad explosions 2 days ago, they were hit with yet another 5 explosions that shocked the province of Babel in southern Iraq, killing 7 people and injuring more than 55 others. This series of explosions in the Shiite-dominated province of Babel were carried out by mortar shells, which blew up in the cities of El Mahawil and El Musaib near the historic city of Babel.
ومعنا من بغداد الكاتب الصحفي جاسم حنون.
Joining us from Babel, journalist Jasim Hanoun. Explosions have even returned to fortified areas. What are the reasons behind this? Is it caused by security failures or by internal political conflicts?
نعم. بالنسبة إلى موضوع التفجيرات الأخيرة والتصعيد الأخيرة التي حصل في الساحة العراقية.
The recent increase in explosions was expected because of the political struggles taking place in the country. Political parties are unwilling to accept one another or to compromise in a way that would help solve the problems that the Iraqis have suffered since 2003. These explosions are ongoing, although the level of violence fluctuates. We cannot reach a solution to this problem unless we can reach a true political consensus and unless we revive the National Reconciliation Project. Political parties must accept one another, and they all must function within the framework of the Iraqi political process. No one should be subjected to oppression and injustice. However, there are attempts to manipulate the system and force others to comply with the dominating political parties, although their policies are rejected by the Iraqi people. They have provoked anger among certain political parties which have military wings and other resources and do what they want in Iraq.
Mr. Jasim, you've talked about reaching a consensus. Can the meeting that's being held today in Parliament help to achieve a consensus and improve the security situation, especially after senior security officials were fired?
Differences between political parties are causing problems in Parliament. Unjustifiably, they are competing against one another for small gains. This affects the Iraqi people negatively. The Iraqi parliament and some influential political figures are responsible. Some officials do things outside the parliament in order to influence the parliament. Some political parties do not accept others. They do not see themselves working for the good of Iraqi society as a whole. Rather, they are working to achieve the narrow interests of certain ethnic or religious groups. This is what led to this situation.
الانتخابات الرئاسية الأفغانية جرت على وقع الانفجارات التي تنقلت في مختلف أنحاء البلاد.
The Afghan presidential elections took place as explosions rocked different neighborhoods in the country. The results were chaotic, with multiple candidates announcing victory. Earlier, the special envoy to Pakistan and Afghanistan, Richard Holbrooke, said that he thinks that these results will be a source of conflict. However, despite all the attacks, people casted their votes and the votes were tallied. According to the election committee, the percentage of voter participation ranged from 40 to 50%. The committee denied Hamid Karzai's victory announcement based on partial results. Presidential candidate Abdullah announced his victory as well.
فيما أعلن أيضا من ناحيته فريق المرشح عبد الله فوز مرشحه.
To learn more about this issue, we speak to Al-Arabiya's Hadi Hanashi in Kabul. It seems that elections these days don't end when the voting booths close. That's when the problems begin. It seems that this is going to be a lengthy problem in Afghanistan.
نعم يبدو أن حلقة واحدة من المسلسل هي التي انتهت يوم أمس.
Yes, this is just one episode of the election series that ended yesterday, which is dominated by security issues. Today, the controversy and appeals began. Many candidates began to submit appeals and also made statements announcing their victory. This issue is confusing the media and reporters. We don't have any confidence in information that we're receiving. The Independent Election Committee is denying the victory announcement, saying that it can't provide any information or initial results before this Tuesday, and that it will take up to 2 weeks to know the final election results.
طب هيدا شو بيعني هادي إذا نحن أمام مشكلة تنافس على
So what does this mean if everyone is appealing the election and claiming victory? What does this mean for Kabul tomorrow, considering the current political and security complications in Afghanistan?
شو يعني ذلك؟
هو يعني الكثير ويعني أن المسألة لن تكون بالأمر الهين وأيا كان الرئيس الذي سيفوز لن تكون أمام.
It means many things. It means that the issue is not going to be easy to resolve. Whoever wins the presidency is not going to have an easy 5 years. The next 5 years will be full of complex political issues.
هناك الطرف الدولي وهو عنصر مهم يسعى الآن إلى الدفع نحو الوصول.
Based on what we've seen, the international community intends to push for the declaration of one winner. They don't want another round of elections because the second round will be expensive, it will cost lives, and it may drag the country into an even more turbulent time. The international community said that they're very happy with the results after a day of voting that resulted in what they considered limited deaths, injuries, and victims.
The price of food in Baghdad markets has increased as the holy month of Ramadan approaches. This comes as the Iraqi Ministry of Trade is procrastinating in providing people with food aid. My colleague Ali Jawad surveyed people for opinions in Baghdad and prepared the following report.
Ramadan is near. In a few days, Ramadan, the month of peace and mercy for all Muslims, will begin. Many Iraqi families have been talking about this month and preparing for it. Everyone is concerned with the increased prices of food. People are trying to find ways to make ends meet during Ramadan. Almost before every Ramadan, the same scenario repeats. So while people associate Ramadan with mercy, in reality, many people suffer during this month.
The poor like me can't afford to to buy many food items. Okra is 200 dinars and green beans are 2,000 dinars. During Ramadan, people get hungry and during the day they crave many food items. We can't tell our families that we can't afford to buy these items during Ramadan.
Some food merchants are taking advantage of the situation. People who fast need basic food items such as lentils, but its price has increased. The prices of some vegetables and meat also increased.
The increase in food prices does not stop here. The closer Ramadan is, the higher the prices become. Meanwhile, the government fails to play a role to stop this from happening. To make matters worse, the Ministry of Trade has failed to make sure that some food items are available.
It's hard to find food items during Ramadan. In the past, we used to find lentils in the market, but now we can't find them. Now one has to pay 2,500 dinars to buy lentils.
A kilo of sugar, 1,000 dinars. Tea, 6,000. Also, the government has not distributed tea for the past 6 or 7 months. No sugar for 4 or 5 months. These items are missing from the aid that we get from the government. They only give us milk, soup, and dates.
It is clear that the markets are very slow. Most of the shoppers are buying half of what they used to buy because their budgets have decreased significantly.
If one person used to buy 2 kilograms of dates, now he only buys 1 kilogram. If one used to buy 1 kilogram of meat, now he buys only half a kilogram, and so on. People are not buying meat.
Ramadan is always welcomed by those who are well off, but the poor only have God. Of course, God loves the poor, and therefore he should take care of them. The Egyptian Ministry of Culture announced the project of restoration on one of the most famous Jewish temples in Cairo. This has aroused controversy over whether or not this project is being carried out to support the Minister of Culture, Farouk Hosni, to become the Director General of the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization. The Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities denied such a statement and reiterated that the renovation of the Jewish temple was to protect historical Egyptian sites.
Some Egyptian newspapers consider the project of the renovation of Jewish temples that are being carried out by the Minister of Culture as his attempt to win the position of UNESCO Director General. These newspapers say that these historical Jewish sites that were being ignored in the past are now being renovated under pressure from Jewish organizations that issued complaints to UNESCO. Egyptian newspapers also reported that the Supreme Council of Antiquities responded to these complaints in order to support the Egyptian Minister of Culture, Farouk Hosni, as one of the candidates for the UNESCO Director General position. The newspapers also mentioned that Farouk Hosni is attempting to console the Jews, who were angered by his statement that he would burn all the Israeli books in Egyptian libraries. The Minister of Culture had previously apologized for his statements. However, the Supreme Council of Antiquities, which invited the journalists to see the process of restoration, denied that there was any association between Farouk Hosni's nomination for UNESCO and the renovation of the Jewish sites.
The reason that this is published on the internet and in newspapers is to vilify the Minister of Culture, Farouk Hosni. The media wants to give the impression that this issue is about the statement that the Egyptian candidate for UNESCO does not care about the Jewish temples. That is not true. We are not restoring the temples for Farouk Hosni. We are doing it because these historical sites belong to Egypt.
The Supreme Council of Antiquities also reiterated that the project of restoring the Jewish temples began before Farouk Hosni was nominated for the UNESCO position. Regardless of the reasons, it seems that deciding who will be the next Director General of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization will put an end to the controversy between those who support Farouk Hosni's candidacy and those who oppose it.
معنا من القاهرة الدكتور أحمد الصاوي أستاذ الآثار الإسلامية في جامعة.
Joining us is Dr. Ahmed Sawi, a professor of Islamic historical sites in Cairo University. Mr. Sawi, in your opinion, can the subject of restoring the Jewish historical sites be separated from Hosni's nomination for the position of UNESCO Director General?
أعتقد منطقيا وبالطريقة التي تم الكشف بها عن أعمال الترميم لا يمكن الفصل بين
I think that the way this project of restoration was announced makes it hard to separate the two matters. It's very clear that there is a connection between the nomination of the Minister of Culture for UNESCO and the restoration project that is going on now. There are all differences between us as archaeologists and the Minister of Culture pertaining to the renovation of historical Jewish sites. There have been continuous and direct Israeli interventions in the process of renovation, which is a violation of Egyptian sovereignty over its historical sites. Secondly, we also view the Zionist attempt to represent Jews from all countries as a dangerous matter.
Ever wonder why you don't see shows like Mosaic on any other channel? It's called independent media. That means that Mosaic will never have to answer to an advertiser or government funder. But in order to continue doing this, we need your support. And this is the one time every year that we fundraise specifically for Mosaic. Our goal is $200,000 and we still have a long way to go. We know we can do it because we know how much our viewers value this program. This really is a critical time for Mosaic. So when you're done watching this episode, consider making a donation and do your part to keep reporting like this alive. Thank you.
What does he want? This was one of the endless questions posed by Israeli reporters who covered a speech of Hezbollah's Secretary General, Hassan Nasrallah, in which he commemorated the 3rd anniversary of his victory. From the Israeli perspective, it seems that the biggest threat that Nasrallah poses is not a war over the northern borders, but his attempt to participate in a new Lebanese government.
We have the right to tell them and make them understand. In the war of 2006, we said that if you bomb Beirut, we will bomb Tel Aviv. Today we tell you, if you bomb Beirut or the southern suburbs, we will bomb Tel Aviv.
What does he want?
This time he was speaking harshly. For example, he said that Prime Minister Netanyahu must keep the peace. In summary, we can say the following. Nasrallah does not expect a war in the near future. Hezbollah does not want war. Nasrallah said this very clearly. Second, it is true that he is preparing for war, but only because he wants to deter Israel from launching a future attack. The threat is that he will try hard to participate in the new national unity government that will be formed in Beirut. Nasrallah also said that he will not allow for changing jurisdictions that were given to the UNIFIL forces in southern Lebanon.
Perhaps these days threats are needed to make the situation calm. Thank you, Ehud.
Mr. Rajab Shalan, the Israeli commentator, said that the real threat they are facing is the plan of Hezbollah to participate in a new Lebanese government. Why do they see this as a threat?
Honestly, the Israeli report is hypocritical. It says that the Israelis are trying to decrease their intervention because Nasrallah warned of a violent response. The resistance in Lebanon, and Hezbollah in particular, has created a new political equation since 1996 during its confrontation with the Zionist enemy. In 1996, the resistance created a new equation, which is the balance of terror on both sides of the borders.
فرضت المقاومة معادلة جديدة هي معادلة توازن الرعب على جانبي الحدود.
In 2000, the resistance created a new equation by repelling Israeli aggression and emerging as victorious. In 2006, the resistance warned Israel, if you attack Beirut, we will attack Tel Aviv. After 2006, Nasrallah began to use the language of forceful diplomacy, which is a different tactic than previous tactics used.
وهذه معادلة أيضا جديدة استخدم فيها شعار واضح جدا بأننا لا نريد.
Nasrallah is making a very clear statement. We do not want war, but we are not afraid of another war. In contrast, the Israelis want war, but they are afraid of it. Nasrallah is now saying to them, if you attack Beirut or the southern suburbs, we will attack Tel Aviv. This means that if Israel attacks any city in Lebanon, then Zionist cities or settlements will also be attacked.
Yes, you explained what Nasrallah said, but what about the Israeli perception of the threat? Why are they threatened by Hezbollah's participation in the government? They say that this participation is a threat to Israel.
سماحة الأمين العام لحزب الله كان في السابق يقول بأننا لا نبغي.
In the past, Nasrallah used to say that they do not want to be part of the government. He used to say that Hezbollah's objective is to protect the people of Lebanon, its stability and security. However, things have now changed, especially after American Zionist schemes have been proposed for the region. This necessitates the presence of resistance. I'm referring to Hezbollah's political wing in the Lebanese government. The resistance will also have to carry on its shoulders the historical responsibilities of confronting any stupid Zionist aggression that they can commit against Lebanon.
اعتقلت قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي فجر اليوم 6 مواطنين من محافظات جنين.
At dawn today, the Israeli occupation forces arrested 6 people from Jenin, Bethlehem, Hebron, and the West Bank. Security sources mentioned that the occupation forces arrested Ahmed Wasif Abu Hanana 25 days after raiding his house in his home village north of Jenin. These sources added that the occupation forces also raided Hebron and Bethlehem and arrested 5 other people.
قال وزير شؤون الأسرى والمحررين عيسى قراقع إن 96.
The Minister of Prisoner Affairs, Isa Qaraqah, said that 96 martyrs have died inside occupation prisons since the year 1967. The most recently martyred prisoner was Juma' Musa from Jerusalem, who died as a result of medical neglect. Qaraqah indicated that the majority of deaths took place in the past 10 years, pointing out that the occupation forces continue to hold the bodies of 300 martyrs from the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Israel does not intend to release the bodies of these martyrs, not to mention the 100 missing bodies whose remains Israel refuses to hand over to their families. Qaraqah's statements come at the end of his visit to the home of the family of Shadi Darwish, who was martyred 20 years ago. He was a leader and a hero of the prisoners' movement. A military court that was held in Hebron today, headed by Ra'ad Faris Auda, sentenced 5 defendants to 7 years in prison on charges of providing the occupation with intelligence and high treason. The sentences were light because the intelligence information they provided did not lead to serious consequences, such as loss of life or major material losses.
The accusations that were leveled against them are based on treason. They have violated Article 131 of the Palestinian Penal Code of 1979. According to this article, they deserve the death penalty. However, due to certain reasons, the sentences were reduced because the intelligence that was provided by the defendants did not lead to major material damages or loss of life. In addition, the defendants were young, so the court decided to reduce the sentence to 7 years in prison based on Article 170. The time they spent in detention since November 23, 2008 will be included in their time served. The second and third defendants have been detained since November 11, 2008. This sentence was the result of a unanimous decision, but it is subject to appeal and should be approved.
Israel's Channel 10 revealed that the senior general whose office was infiltrated by a soldier whose bank account was withdrawn from and whose personal gun was stolen is the Chief of Staff, General Gabi Ashkenazi.
The senior general, whose social security number and personal gun was stolen from his office, is the chief of staff of the Israeli army, Gabi Ashkenazi. Reporter Ari Helen, what was a thief doing in the chief of staff's office?
Yes, we put an end to the rumors. The general whose social security number was stolen is Gabi Ashkenazi. The soldier who guards the chief of staff's headquarters knew very well where he was wandering. He was in the chief of staff's office and no one was watching him. The thieving soldier took advantage of the fact that the chief of staff kept his social security card in his secretary's drawer. He took a picture of the card using his cell phone and gave this information to a group of Arab Israeli citizens living in the triangle. They went shopping using the money they obtained from the chief of staff's bank account. At the time, the chief of staff, Gabi Ashkenazi, told his associates that he did not know what was happening and that he never never noticed that these funds were taken out of his accounts. In brief, one can say that a security failure took place in Israel's nerve center.
In other news, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last night reprimanded Vice Premier and Minister for Strategic Affairs Moshe Ya'alon for referring to Peace Now and Israel's elites as viruses. Ya'alon told Netanyahu that his remarks were misinterpreted. At the end of the meeting, Ya'alon issued a statement of clarification, saying that his statements did not contain any criticism of the government's policy or the conduct of the Prime Minister, and that he regretted if his statements were interpreted otherwise. Netanyahu had cut his vacation short to meet Ya'alon last night. The disengagement from Gaza took place 4 years ago between August 15th and 22nd, 2005. I recently visited the Gush Katif Museum in the capital, displaying the only exhibit in the world dedicated to the evacuation of the former Jewish communities. The Gush Katif Museum opened its doors in Jerusalem 1 year ago on the 3rd anniversary of the expulsion of the Jewish residents from the Gaza Strip and 4 northern Shomron communities. The privately funded museum is one of the most popular tourist sites in Jerusalem, with some 3,000 people visiting in just its first year. This is the only museum in the world to present the story of the Gaza communities prior to and during the 2005 evacuation. Photographs and books document the life of the lost Jewish communities, and visitors are often tearful while watching films of the evacuation. After the removal of the residents, their homes, schools, and offices were demolished. On a map of Neve Dekalim, museum curator Shlomo Bashan points out his childhood home, which no longer exists.
And this is my school. I used to do every day my way to the school. All of this wouldn't exist.
Shlomi, how do you feel when you look at these pictures?
Actually, when this picture came here, I almost cried, because that's my view of my life.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.